Physical distancing is a new lexicon in global communication, at least in recent times, which means deliberately increasing the physical space between people to avoid spreading illness. The World Health Organization has favored physically distancing as opposed to social distancing, a redefinition that suggests that people can remain socially connected via technology. Have you observed that the all-important rule since the campaign to check the spread of COVID-19 began? Well, whether you have observed it or not, today's edition is for you. Welcome to COVID-19 Myths and Facts. It appears physical distancing was well understood and adhered to during the long lockdown weeks in Europe and in other parts of the world. But how well were they understood in these parts? In this report, we review the importance of the regulation, especially as it affects the gradual easing of lockdown restrictions in Nigeria. In most parts of Europe and America, initiatives for food distribution that eliminated physical contact sprung up to match the season. Hitherto crowded spots like the Vatican in Rome, the Kaaba in Saudi Arabia, and other well-known tourist sites became compliant in a global resolve to check the spread of COVID-19. In some parts of Asia and Latin America, extreme lockdown measures were implemented to ensure people were physically distant. It was a success in New Zealand to the extent that Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern attributes the country's record drop in infection rate to adherence to physical distancing.
Stay the course. We cannot afford to squander the good work to date when our end goal is so close and within reach. Next Monday, we will make the decision on whether or not we will move to Alert Level 2. That day represents the end of a 2-week life cycle, as it were, a period of transmission of the virus.
But social distancing was always a challenge amid lockdowns in Africa. Most attributed this to the communal way of living. Despite electronic campaigns emphasizing the importance of physical distancing, the message always fell on deaf ears. As at April the 27th, Nigeria had only tested about 13,000 people in spite of its estimated population of 200 million, a factor that caused worry over President Buhari's decision to announce the easing of lockdown restrictions. Physical distancing was a scarce practice on day one of lockdown easing, particularly with outdoor activities and other essential services. The concern of increased community transmissions as a result of this cannot be overemphasized.
Be truthful to ourselves, watching situation. If it becomes obvious that cases are escalating the more, the lockdown must have to come back. If we take a look at what happened in Ghana, not just a long time ago, that they prematurely relaxed their lockdown, we realized that there was a surge in infection rate in Ghana, and that could happen.
Even though Ghana had tested nearly 40,000 people, a factor that buoyed its decision to ease its lockdown earlier than other African countries, it also witnessed a spike in infections afterwards. Is Nigeria also traveling the same road? Is Nigeria traveling the same road as Ghana is? Or is Nigeria going to have a planned detour? That's $1 million question, and we urge you to find out after the break. In Nigeria, those who favor the easing of lockdown restrictions argue that Africa's largest economy cannot afford a long closure. As a result, we examine the possibility of the term herd immunity as a providential factor that could aid the early exit of countries with similar curve as Nigeria's from this public health crisis. What is herd immunity? According to healthline.com, herd immunity happens when so many people in a community become immune to an infectious disease that it stops the disease from spreading. This can happen in two ways. One, many people contract the disease and in time build up an immune response to it. In other words, develop natural immunity. Or when many people are vaccinated against the disease to achieve immunity. Now let's get an expert analysis on the concept of herd immunity as we welcome Dr. Tuyi Mebanwodu. Thank you, Dr. Tuyi, for holding on. Now, Dr. Tuyi, you're there, right?
I can hear you.
Yes, thank you for holding on.
Yes.
According to healthline.com, herd immunity can go into effect if 40% of the population become immune to the disease through vaccination, or 80 to 90% become naturally immune to the disease. Which of this applies to Nigeria?
Specifically, if we are looking at COVID-19 as a disease, now it's going to be difficult for us to try to achieve herd immunity, and I will state the reason clearly. You know, herd immunity, like you rightly defined, is when a group of people or a community acquire protection from certain diseases, having developed immunity to that disease. And like you rightly said, it can either come naturally when critical number of the people